Straight ahead on WBKB, the Senate is locked in a vote-a-rama over the next stimulus package.
Plus, why some people may refuse the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and why you need renter's insurance.
You are watching Thunder Bay News Network. WBKB News at 6 starts now.
This is WBKB News at 6. An in-depth look at news, weather, and sports. From hard-hitting news stories to local events, we're there with coverage you can count on. You're watching WBKB News at 6.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Stewart.
And I'm Tyler Cruz. Happy Friday, everyone. The Senate began an hours-long vote-a-rama this morning over President Biden's COVID relief bill. Since the Senate is using reconciliation to avoid filibuster, lawmakers cannot have a final vote on the bill until all amendments are voted on, a process that can stretch for hours. Nonetheless, each amendment only needs a simple majority to pass, and Democrats are expected to pass the American Rescue Plan. The bill would go back to the House for final approval before being sent to the President to be written into law.
House Democrats passed a sweeping ethics and voting rights package this week. The bill, known as For the People, is a response to Republican efforts to change voting laws in the wake of the 2020 presidential election.
On this vote, the yeas are 220 and the nays are 210. The bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The bill seeks to expand Americans' access to the ballot box. The legislation would implement automatic voter registration as well as same-day and online voter registration. Every Republican member of the House voted against it. GOP House members say the Democrats' reform bill is dangerous and will further undermine faith in elections.
State health officials are worried some Michiganders will not get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The West Michigan Catholic Diocese are promoting a message from leaders about the single-dose vaccine. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops recommend to choose the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines over Johnson & Johnson's. The organization cites concerns over the shot, claiming it's made with abortion-derived cell lines. But West Michigan Health Department staff disagree. They say all vaccines are safe and people may not have the option to choose the vaccine they receive.
If you're at a venue and the COVID-19 vaccine is Johnson & Johnson, that's what you should take. I don't believe in the near future it will be possible for people to have a choice. With the scarce allocation still, there may only be one product at a clinic.
In a statement, Johnson & Johnson says there is no fetal tissue in the vaccine.
Alpena County Libraries open in-person service starting next week. Only the Harrisville and Lincoln branches will be open for walk-in patrons at 25% capacity. For Harrisville, that means a cap of 15 guests, while in Lincoln, that means only 7. Touchless pickup is still available at the county's other branches. Library Director Denise Baer told WBKB she's looking forward to greeting patrons again.
I'm excited for this reopening. We've been through different phases up and down in the past year, and it will be nice to see people, right in front of your face once again.
Harrisville will be open weekdays from 10 to 6, while the Lincoln branch will be open from noon to 6 p.m. The library requests all patrons wear masks.
Well, when you think of insurance, protecting your car, house, and loved ones may come to mind first. Renter's insurance, however, is not the one that tops the list, but you may want to rethink that. WBKB's Stephanie Minichi has more.
Renter's insurance is not something people typically think about when living in an apartment or renting a home. One misconception renters have is that their personal property is covered by the landlord's insurance. Local State Farm President T.J. Hose says not having renter's insurance could result in the loss of important everyday items.
A big one these days is electronics, computers, phones, tablets, flat screen TVs. You add those things up and you can have a pretty substantial amount of money invested in your place of residence.
Ho says you can do everything right and your neighbor does something wrong, which can result in displacement. State Farm owner Samuel Rumble cites an example when self-cleaning a stove went wrong.
When you're self-cleaning a stove, it locks the door on you. So it wasn't that it burned the house down or anything, but they could not put out this fire quickly enough to prevent it from filling the whole house with smoke.
Rumble says because of their renter's insurance, lodging, food, and travel expenses were covered. Community Risk Reduction Officer Andy Marceau recently responded to a fire that left the tenants displaced.
They had rental insurance. That is another big thing that, you know, as the owner of the home has homeowner's insurance, but the renters need to have rental insurance to protect all their goods inside the home.
Ho says with a traditional renter's policy, you have personal property coverage, liability, medical, and loss of use, which covers displacement. He says that you can get coverage for as little as $1 a day. In Alpena, Stephanie Minichi, WBKB News.
Thanks for that, Stephanie. We are already a month into the Bagley Street Bridge project. Workers from LS Engineering were out early this morning removing beams on the piers of the existing bridge. The Road Commission says this process will allow the team to prepare for the new piers. WBKB will continue to keep you updated on the bridge repairs. We have several more months to go as the bridge is slated for completion in December.
Oh, it's looking good. Doesn't look like it's going to take another 7 months.
Who knows?
More news for you ahead here on WBKB. Coming up, the plan to stop one invasive species from making its way into Michigan.
Up later in the newscast.
Thanks to that, Ellie. Warm temperatures moving in. Can't get any better. Well, Michigan is funding a multi-million-dollar project designed to keep the invasive carp out of our waters. Should the species reach Michigan, fishing in the Great Lakes could be at risk. Invasive bighead, silver, and black carp species were introduced to the lower Mississippi River by flooding over 20 years ago. From there, they have been traveling upstream through the Illinois River into the Des Plaines River, which empties into Lake Michigan.
Moving up through the Mississippi River, so they reproduce very rapidly, they grow very quickly. They're like that perfect invasive species. And then they're coming up into the Illinois River and then up into the Des Plaines River, which is where Brandon Road Lock and Dam is.
The DNR has been preventing the invasive carp from Michigan for over 2 decades. Dr. Newcomb says the diet, quick growth, and reproduction of the carp make them the perfect invasive species, and they could be detrimental to the Great Lakes.
Even Thunder Bay, they're in Alpena, so they would be in those types of near-shore environments. They would be in our rivers, they could get into our inland lakes, and they will outcompete our native fish, particularly our smaller fish, because they eat the zooplankton.
Everywhere they've seen the invasive carp introduced, Dr. Newcomb says they have dramatically taken over the fish communities. Recently, Michigan allocated $8 million to the Brandon Road Lock and Dam project in Chicago, designed to prevent any carp species from being introduced into the state's ecosystem.
It's a downstream of a lock project. There's a dam at that location that covers the majority of the river, so the only way that the fish could get through would be through that narrow lock that the barges come through.
Aside from the Lock and Dam project, the DNR monitors the DNA in waters to test for carp. However, you can also help. Newcomb says the average angler can communicate anything unusual and refrain from dumping their bait.
Well, that's an interesting report.
It was a very fun story to do, a very fun interview. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, very much. Well, in health news, the science behind feeling full and our anti-seizure meds okay during pregnancy. Michael George has a look at some of the day's top health stories.
Taking anti-seizure drugs during pregnancy does not affect a child's development. Researchers found children born to women with epilepsy had no developmental delays at age 3 when compared to children born to women without the disease. In a first-of-its-kind study, Chinese researchers have identified a key link between air pollution and physical activity. They found higher levels of physical activity helped ward off type 2 diabetes, especially for people living in places with poor air quality. And scientists in the UK have examined worms to better understand what makes humans feel full after a meal. They identified a key master controller in the nervous system of worms that helps regulate their nutritional needs and believe humans have a similar system to control.
Thank you, Ashley, for sending us this photo. If you have a photo such as nature shots, pics with friends, or interesting sites you see that you would like to send us, email it along with a short description to news@wbkb11.com.
A red sky at night, Sailor's Delight. That looks beautiful. Sports is coming up next, but first, Jake Vanderbrook is here with a preview. Jake, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Tyler, what's happening? Next in sports, 2 teams have a chance to clinch a league title for girls basketball. We'll let you know who. And yes, Big Ten hockey is back on our screens, ladies and gentlemen, as Michigan will collide with...
Bridgerton star has trouble sleeping, and what films are most appealing to adults? Danya Bacchus has your eye on entertainment.
The United States versus Billie Holiday, Minari, One Night in Miami, and The Five Bloods are all being honored with AARP Movies for Grown-Ups Awards. The films all were declared Best Film in assorted categories.
I have to warn them about the conditions on Earth.
The organization is also honoring George Clooney with its Career Achievement Award, calling him a slam dunk argument against ageism. The AARP Movies for Grown-Ups Awards airs on PBS March 28th.
Yakira. Mom.
Bridgerton star Ruby Barker plays Yakira, a young woman who keeps having the same dream about her dead mother in the film, How to Stop a Recurring Dream.
I believe they do represent something about your subconscious, and I am that person to Google what my dreams mean.
As she tries to work through the dream, Yakira kidnaps her estranged half-sister while their parents begin a separation. How to Stop a Recurring Dream debuts on demand and digital Tuesday. And filmmaker Ali Tabrizi set out to celebrate the ocean. Instead, he found himself looking at the ways humans are causing harm on the high seas in the documentary Seaspiracy.
We are at war with the oceans, and if we win this war, we're going to lose it all because mankind is not able to live on this planet with the Dead Sea.
The film examines the threats from plastics to fishing practices as it reveals the extent of the damage to the world's oceans. Seaspiracy streams on Netflix March 24th. That's your Eye on Entertainment. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's all we have for you this evening.
You can read more about our broadcast stories and get the scoop on other news items online.
Just visit WBKB11.com for sports, weather, and news updates anytime, day or night.
And check us out on our Facebook page and Twitter handle at WBKB11.
Be sure to catch us back here tonight at 11 with Kent Davis. Have a great week.